So we started campaigning with a message that focused on the real losses that would happen the day after the election. And we knew that we'd have to reach out to people who were much broader and unlikely than other states had been able to do. So what I did was I thought, okay, who cares about these partnerships and who cares about these benefits for unmarried people? Well, it turns out, I didn't know this, now you're going to know too, but there are lots of firefighters and police officers who shack up in Arizona. Who knew, right? I didn't know, but they do. Well, it turns out that as city employees, lots of police officers and firefighters use those domestic partner benefits for their partners and for their children. And that this initiative passed, all those firefighters and police officers would lose their benefits. So this was 2006, still a really good time to be a police officer and a firefighter. Now not as much because they don't get paid anything. But at the time it was really important. And they were a group of people who were well respected and revered in the community. So I went over and I talked to these guys. Not historically a very liberal group of people, right? So I went and talked to them. I said, look guys, I know you've heard about this initiative, but the truth is, the real impact it will have is to take away the health benefits for you and your partners and your kids. And the firefighters and the police officers agreed, and they joined our campaign. And that hadn't happened in other states around the country. We also went out to the folks in Sun City. Now, here's another little thing. You may not know this. Lots of folks in Sun City shack up. Seriously, you might as well call it Sin City. They're all over the place out there. There are actually some really valid reasons that elderly individuals in Arizona choose not to marry. Some choose not to remarry out of just respect for their deceased or former spouse. Some don't get remarried because they could lose their Social Security benefits. Others choose not to get remarried because they risk losing their pension from their deceased or former spouse. And for many of these individuals, they live on a fixed income. So losing that source of income would mean that they would have to choose being married and living in poverty, or living together without being married and having the financial means to take care of each other. So there are lots and lots of folks in Arizona who live together without being married. So we went and met some of these folks and talked to them about what was happening and what they could lose, which are health benefits and the ability to visit each other in the hospital. And sure enough, the Arizona Association of Retired Americans joined the campaign. Again, an unlikely group. There hadn't been groups of retirees who had joined other campaigns in other states. Historically, they were a little too socially conservative and were nervous about being attached to an issue like this. But here in Arizona, because we focused on the benefits and the privileges that would be lost for all these people, they're willing to come on board. And we had lots of traditional allies as well. Obviously, members of the lesbian gay community were very concerned. Although we make up only 1 out of every 10 people in the community, many of us depend on these kinds of benefits and hospital visitation rights to be able to have long-term loving relationships with each other. And there are lots of other folks who need these benefits as well. Professors and teachers in parts all around the state use these benefits to take care of their families and their loved ones. And institutions that hire teachers and professors want these benefits as a way to attract and retain highly qualified people to their institutions. So we gathered a really unlikely coalition of people, and we were able to talk to Arizonans about the impact of this initiative in language that they understood. So rather than using language that is a little bit scary for some folks, we used language that they were totally comfortable with, because everyone has a sister, a brother, a mom, a cousin, or even a daughter who's living in an unmarried relationship. And they feel comfortable talking about that unmarried relationship, whether that person is straight or gay. So that was the thing that we did in this campaign that was very unusual. And the good news is it worked, because Arizona became the first campaign in the country to defeat one of these initiatives. And I'm very proud of that fact. What I'm not as proud of is that we're still the only state in the country to have defeated one of these initiatives. I hope that'll change soon in Maine. But right now, Arizona's the only state. And so after that campaign finished, some folks called and said, Kirsten, can you come talk to us about how you did this? And so I started going around the country telling people about this unlikely coalition that we built and how we used unlikely messaging and unlikely messengers to help communicate our message and win folks that we normally wouldn't have been able to win. So that was our great big win. And it sounds like a brilliant strategy, and I think it was. But I'll be honest, it wasn't mine. Because at this time in my career, I was new to the idea of working in coalitions with people who are different than myself.